Okay, guys, so I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for getting on the call today. My name is Christy Thompson, and I am the marketing director here at BIS Technology Group. And today, our topic is going to be on how to get the right people in the right seats. So I'm going to introduce our speaker. His name is Phillip Long. I'm sure you've seen the invitations that have come from him. And he is the CEO here at BIS. He's been in the IT industry for over 15 years and been an entrepreneur for even longer, so he's very familiar with the hiring process. He has over 600 clients from Gulfport to Gulf Breeze, current owner of 5 businesses, and he is a certified information systems security professional, which is backed by the Department of Defense. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Phillip. Phillip?
Yeah, hey, Christy, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Christy, for that great introduction. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that literally almost every client I meet with, every time I meet with them, has a problem with employees and with hiring, and really being able to attract those best potential employees, and then how to even hire them, how to onboard them, and then how to keep them happy throughout. So we're going to touch on some things that we actually use. I'm pretty much a lifelong learner, and I'm always trying to make things better. And I want to really give back to the community the things that we've learned in ways of, from a security standpoint, from a technology standpoint, and even things that we've learned like from a hiring standpoint. So I want to go ahead and get started here. This is it brings reality straight to the forefront. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, the price of a bad hire is at least 30% of the employee's first year earnings. And I would be very curious how they came up with that number, because what I'm going to bet you is that is not talking about some of the other things that we see, like possibly the damage that can happen because of churn in a particular position that is client facing. So it's a big deal to get your hiring practice right, because not only is it going to save you a lot of money, but it's also going to save you in a lot of ways that are intangible. And the longer I live and the more that I work in this industry, or really, I guess, being a business owner, the more I see the cost of these things that are classed as intangible. You can't really put a hard number to it, but it's painful. Well, a bad hire is definitely painful. All right. So let's talk a little bit about a proven hiring process. I think that you're going to need to get something written down, and hopefully this will be a soup starter or something that you can kind of take on, but you need to get something written down so that you can kind of follow that flow. And if something doesn't quite work out, you can go back and adjust that one component. I think too often we try to fly by the seat of our pants, and that we just don't come out with great results. And another thing that really hurts people on getting the hiring done is that most managers are never trained on recruiting. They don't know anything about it. So, they're trying to do a task that they have no skill set for. One of the first things that you want to do is you want to get the word out. And, from a sales perspective, they say, always be closing. Well, in the same way it is with hiring people, you really need to have an ad out at all times. You need to be somehow, even if it's not where you're spending a lot of money to keep that ad out, but you need to keep an ad out all the time, because 2 weeks, somebody puts in their 2-week notice, that is absolutely absurd to think that in 2 weeks you're going to be able to go out and get somebody and have them show up ready for work in 2 weeks, and even at all to have gotten somebody. Because one of the things that we do that I've noticed over time is you put an ad out, and right at first, man, you get tons of applicants. Well, they're not even qualified for what the job is. These are the people that you absolutely unequivocally do not want. These are the people without a job, and I don't want to be harsh or anything, but the reality, at least from what I see, is people without a job, especially in this climate, probably have some baggage that comes with them, and you probably really and truly you wouldn't want to necessarily hire them. It's not the case every time, but that's something just from observation. Tons of people not even qualified. Then another couple weeks, it kind of cools off a minute, and then after about the fourth week, you start seeing some people that are really interested, because those are the people with a job. They're maybe things aren't going well at the place, and they're the people with a job, and those are the ones that you really want to be, having a conversation with. So again, you got to get the word out early. You need to be doing it all the time, because you can always find a place for talent. If you can have, in most businesses, if they had more talented people, they could scale the company. So you always want to keep that in mindset, or at least that's the mindset that I definitely have. Another one is, a lot of times you find your best employee from somebody, a current employee or a friend or something like that. There's something about humanity that has, whenever there's a string or a bond of some form of relationship, the people will absolutely, they'll just be better employees. Or, maybe it could be that the ones you're getting referred to know your culture and they know if this person would be a fit, so they're kind of pre-screening them. I don't know. But again, historically, what my anecdotal evidence is that by far somebody that is that knows you or works for you is going to send you a better applicant. Another thing, we give money away, $200 minimum. And you could spend $500 and for the right person, and it would be so cheap comparative to hiring the wrong person. You need to also have a careers page. This is a great way to kind of always be advertising positions. You want to always have something out there so that people can basically put in for an applicant and review those applicants. And when they come in, you can say, hey, reach out, pick up the phone. Hey, listen, I really don't have a spot right now, because more than likely the good person that you're looking for actually has a job. And you can have a conversation and say, but I'd love to have lunch with you. I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee. I want to get to know you, and really stretch that. You stretch out that hiring process and get as many touches as you possibly can with that candidate, so that you're able to see, who they are, the real them, if you will. Also, another thing, of course, social media being a big driver in today's environment with being able to get the word out. You can do it on Twitter. You can do it on Facebook. Indeed is another one that we use a lot. And again, this is where I really see that lag of quality people. The people that have a job, they only go out to Indeed maybe once a month. And, the people that don't have a job, they're out there all the time. So just remember that you got to have a little lag time with that. Another thing that we have done is we've reached out to some colleges, and you would be surprised if you form a relationship with someone at that college where you could talk to, for our company, for instance, if this is a technical hire, and we can talk to one of their instructors that is teaching them about technology or programming. They're going to give you a great reference, and you're going to have that good quality type employee that you're looking for. So that's another thing. We also we picked up a couple this last summer that was a huge success. That actually 3 that were interns, and we really had a lot of good luck out of that. And I guess it'd be worth saying right now that of course, that's going to depend on what you're looking for. If you're looking for somebody that you can come in that is, gifted, doing well in school, and that, is basically teachable, then this is the route you'd go. Of course, if they need to have a lot of skill set, this probably would not be the route that you'd want to go. Another way to get that person that is skilled is you can do prospecting on LinkedIn. That's a very powerful way. It's kind of like LinkedIn is ultimately a business resume site, so you can actually purchase we have a sales navigator and a recruiting module. You can buy different levels of support or service at LinkedIn, and one of them will actually help you in recruiting. And again, I think sometimes people are so cheap that they wind up making a bad hire because they're in a hurry or they don't want to spend money. And at the end of the day, new hires, they don't work out. You wind up with something that you really didn't want. Another option is the Alabama Career Center. There is some, they'll actually pay you for certain positions if you put them on, that, actually the state will help offset the cost of that employee for you for a certain period of time. So this can be really a great opportunity if you have that position that, maybe you're looking for somebody that needs, an opportunity, and you can actually, kind of help the community. But again, you need to think about, what you're hiring for in the beginning, because some of these options would not be an option if you're looking for somebody with a high level of skill set. One thing we do, and we think it's critical, is we do a pre-screen with a phone interview. Your time is so important and so valuable that you don't want to wind up with something, the moment they walk into your conference room, you're like, oh no, I was hiring them for public relations and they barely can speak English, or, something that is going to really deter them. They don't have a good skill set that's going to fit what you want, that you might be able to pick up on during that pre-screen phone interview. So that's really one of the things we do. It weeds out the ones that we just don't think could do it at all, and it will streamline the process of actually having to do an in-person interview. And you absolutely want to conduct an in-person interview. And during this interview, you really need to come up with a hit list of items, maybe things that they've done that are going to highlight their skill set for you. During this interview, and I should have said this actually earlier, whenever you're building out the ad, you want to have the actual job duties in the ad. I should have hit on that previously, so I'm going to say that one more time. You want to have the actual job duties in the ad, because you don't want to hire somebody. I mean, you look at most ads, they're so vague and they're so much alike, and it may or may not be your culture at all. And you're basically false advertising, or you're not telling them the things that they're going to have to do. That's another thing in the in-person interview you want to absolutely go over. I call it a day in the life. Let's talk about what it's going to be like, or even I use that in both ways. I'll use a day in the life as to what they're currently doing, so I can kind of get a feel for what it is, how they think, how do they approach a day of work, and then I'll explain the job that we have to offer after I've asked some pointed questions about what a job would look like, a day in the life in working for BIS Technology Group. Because ultimately, I don't want them to feel like I moved their cheese, or basically I brought them on under one pretense and then moved what their job role was. You also want to test their knowledge and their expertise. There's a lot of different ways to do that depending upon the industry that you're in. We're signed up to a website. It's called selecttoperform.com, I think, but it's select number 2 and then perform.com. And they have a very wide, this one has a lot of technical skill sets, but really I want to know from a technical standpoint. I always say, in most jobs, I think you guys would probably agree that your job or your employee, what you're going to want for them in their job is going to be, it's about 1/3 your way, your processes, the way that you conduct business. Then there's another third that's going to be more geared towards social skill set. How do they interact with clients? How do they interact with other team members? Or am I buying, am I fixing to basically bring on a headache, somebody who's not going to get along with anybody? And then the other third is actually their role, their processes, that they're going to be doing throughout the company. Well, I am looking at those all three and the way that we're approaching that in talking to them, checking out their social skills, and then we'll do a test on their knowledge, and then we're just seeing, is this going to be a person who fits into this culture? Is kind of the top three things that we're looking at during that first on-site interview. You want to check references, and you really want to do that. You want to go through the pain. Now, listen, they're going to, of course, give you somebody that they know, but you can also ask for, can I call your former employees? And of course, we all know the political landscape that we live in. We want to be careful here, but you can still tell. You can ask questions to see if that person was a quality employee. One of the really good questions is, if you had the opportunity, would you hire them back right now? If you were in need of this position to be filled, would you hire them? That's a safe question for them to say yes or no to, and it means the world in whether you want to hire this person or not. So you really want to check on those references, and not only the ones they give you, but also ask if you can call former employees. Also, this is kind of a culture question. Do you feel like this person is going to represent your core values of your company? And that can be good and bad. Some companies, they don't want certain types of people because, they're not a fit for maybe their, you're not going to hire a preacher's daughter for a construction company possibly. And, that probably just wouldn't work out. That's probably not politically correct to say, but I think that's something that you need to have in mind is, what am I putting in to my organization, and are they going to be a cultural fit? Because, it's going to be bad for them as well as you, and as well as for your company and your other staff whenever you continue to go through a churn on that. So you really want to focus in on core value. We ask questions about how they might have lived out our core values during the interview. Tell me how you've been. We have 7 core values. Tell me how you've shown passion in what you've where you've worked at before. Talk to me about your professionalism and how you exhibited that where you work. Whatever your core values are, what you would say make up your company, I would absolutely ask very pointed questions and ask for actual events, things that they've done that would represent those types of activities within that person. Another thing is we use a product, a tool called DISC, and it's a DISC profile is what we call it, and it stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. There's a lot of these things out there. There's Myers-Briggs, but this really has been a eye-opener, game changer for us whenever we go to hire somebody, because we get an insight on how they're made as a human being. And there's certain roles that are more likely to have a certain type of profile in them. I know that statistically. And again, you don't want to make a mistake in hiring, because not only does it hurt you and your company and your reputation with your employees and your clients, all that, having a churn, but also even with the person that's coming on board. One of the things that I have really taken to heart, and it's from failure, is I don't want to put somebody in a position to fail. And I think that that's a responsibility of the employer, is to do your due diligence and make sure that that person is actually going to be able to do that particular role. Let's go over what DISC kind of stands for, and there's some characteristics, and you'll identify with these, because they're very common traits. And but the D, it stands for dominance. It really measures anger. That is the measurement. And, I think most of us think that when we're angry, we're going to do bad things, and we probably do. But I don't think it's in that way of thinking. Jesus said, be angry, but do not sin. So it's a very emotional thing with an outward effect is what D is going to measure. Somebody with a high D is going to be very demanding. They possibly could be arrogant, aggressive, Most of the time, whenever you see any leader in any position, if you look, they're going to have a high D or they won't make it. They're going to have that, they're not going to be ashamed to ask somebody to do something. They're not going to be ashamed to stand up and make something happen. And of course, somebody with a low D factor, they're going to be more reserved, a follower. And if you look, the Pareto principle, the French mathematician, it's about 80-20. About 80% of the people have a low D, and only 20% of the people have a high D. And therefore, you're going to have a lot more followers than you are going to have leaders. And I think that's important when you're hiring, especially, that you make sure that if you're hiring for a leadership role, they better have a high D above the 50% line, because if they don't, you're going to have problems. And for them, they're not going to be able to execute. I can almost guarantee it. The I factor, it really measures influence. It's somebody who is, outgoing is a very, good word, but they're able to influence and persuade others without really even, it's not like they're maniacal trying to do that. That's who they are. There's somebody who's going to be inspiring. They're going to be outgoing. They're going to be magnetic and trusting, which the trusting part is something that you really want to pay attention to if you have a high I, because you'll be over trusting people what they tell you. So, and then of course somebody with a low I, they're going to be more pessimistic. They're going to be critical, logical, and actually even at a really low I, they can actually be distrusting, where it's basically you got to show me on things. Another is the S stands for steadiness, and steadiness is pretty much what it says right there. It's the way at which a person undertakes activities and responsibility. Now, most people have a high S above the 50% line. Most of the people probably are going to have 60 and 70% on the S factor, and it really makes you want. When I said earlier about how you want to hire for the role in the ad, in the interview, what they're actually going to be doing, because they're going to be very resistant to change. And so you want to change absolutely as little as possible with someone like this. Somebody with a high S, they're going to be, relaxed. They're going to be very resistant to change. They'll be more passive. They can be patient. Of course, a lot of times when you get into leaders, they don't have a high S. They're ready to make it happen. So again, these profiles mean a lot whenever you're hiring, and also how that you communicate with people after the hire. And then we share that information with the rest of the team, because I want people to understand who I am. I want people to understand, who their office mate is at a level that they pick up on. But I don't think a lot of times, we're made in a particular way, and we're going to have a certain propensity, the nurture nature thing. I think that I know there's some nature things that are going on, and it's important to identify that and share that with the team. It can really draw the team together. I've done these with teams to help them kind of get over a hurdle, and it really is amazing whenever you walk away and they understand, oh, so that's why you're so impatient. You have such a low S. And then, of course, C is the C factor, which is compliance. And somebody with a high C, they're worrisome. They're careful. They're neat. They're concerned. A lot of times somebody in the accounting world will have a very high C. Somebody that you're going to hire to do your books, you want them to have a high C, because they're going to be neat. They're going to be careful. They're going to be mindful of those numbers. Like a really strong CEO is a DC. They're dominant and they're compliant. They're able to see what needs to happen, and then they're able to stick to things to actually make them happen. Whereas, my profile is more of a visionary. I'm a very high D and a very high I, which makes really not that common as a mix, but it makes for people that are entrepreneurs and visionaries. That's the way that normally they're wired. And I want to say that knowing that about yourself, who you are, and kind of how you're wired, I do things so methodically because of my low steadiness and my low compliance. I have to basically build in compliance in the way that I do things so that I don't move too quickly. It's really it's a challenge, and every profile has a challenge. It's just important that you understand what that challenge is. Of course, this is kind of like a little chart here that talks about, DIs, they're going to like active, fast paced. A DC, they're going to be questioning. An IS is going to be more accepting. And then a CS, they're going to be moderate paced and very thoughtful. So it's really cool to see that. All right, another thing you want to do is perform a background check for a lot of reasons, and more so now more than ever, because if data were to be breached or something was to happen in your business, you would hate to know that, of course, even if it wasn't an inside job, but that's something we always want to protect against, but just something coming up. I've almost gone to the point of where I'm thinking that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when a company will get breached. The guy at Intel, Bob Groves, he said that only the paranoid survive. And I think I'm getting a little more paranoid about things because everywhere I look, I see a potential problem with security, and it's never ending from my seat at least. So you want to prepare a background check so that that if something were to happen, that you didn't have somebody on your payroll that would be detrimental to your case in some way. Another is screening for alcohol and drugs. That's another, big problem that's really and truly, it's out there. And again, you don't want to wind up hooking your wagon to somebody that's got a drug problem for a lot of reasons. Not only from, just all the laws and all that kind of stuff, the risk that it puts your company if you're having them drive your vehicles. And immediately, I'm going to tell you what happens with workers' comp. We had a guy just the other day, not even a big cut, but he cut his finger. He was cutting some cabling, and he cut the top of his finger. Well, he went to the emergency room. First thing they did is pulled him in and did a drug screening. And, because the reality is they probably wouldn't have to pay, or maybe they, who knows, but everybody's looking out for themselves. And you don't want to have where you didn't do your due diligence in knowing whether that person had a drug problem when you brought them on board, at least, if not even doing it random throughout. And then finally, what you're looking at is you want to create and send an offer letter. And you want to have everything down in details because, again, you don't want something that's going to change along the way. You want to have everything nailed down with the how much, when they're going to get paid, what does evaluations look like, all the key components, what are their responsibilities too, is another really big thing is, what are their metrics that you're going to measure them by, because you don't want to bring them on and then all of a sudden they go, what? Y'all are going to measure me. Y'all are going to actually check my performance. Hey, I wasn't in for that. You really want to have that in the ad, in the interview, as well as in the offer letter, stating kind of the expectations of that. Another thing that's really important, and, people go back and forth on this, but we call them alignment meetings, but this is a 90-day employee evaluation. And ultimately, we grade everything on the core values. So our core values mean a lot to us. So we're going to have that reiterated, and in the way that we reward and we also punish is based around our core values. So it's a pretty simple form, and we call them alignment meetings because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a raise. It may, but at the end of the day, what you want to do, and what happens so often, is things start getting adrift. This old guy told me one time about he and his wife, and he had been divorced or whatever, and he described it in this way, and it always stuck with me, and it very much is applicable to employers and employees, or managers and employees. It's like whenever you know that something's going on, it's like you laid a row of brick between you. You can still step over the bricks and have access. And then whenever that, over time, there's row after row after row of brick, and before you know it, it's more trouble to even get over there to them, so you don't. And then before you know it, there's a full wall between the two of you, and it's over, basically. So these 90-day increments are things that where you can evaluate things. We do 360 evaluations, where the manager is reviewing the employee, and the employee is reviewing the manager by the exact same standards. We have our core values, our 7 core values, and GWA. Gets it, wants it, has the ability to do it. We try to be as straightforward as possible, and really, so that whenever those reviews, and you have to make a written response on each of them, how you can improve, and there's a score that happens, and if it's below that, you meet 30 days later to see if corrective action has been taken place. But that's a very key component that I tell you, if you were to do that, your problems would go way down within your organization, because you have the opportunity basically to tear down that wall every 90 days. Another thing is an employee onboarding checklist. This is so very important, because it'll make sure all the stuff got done, because not only are you evaluating that employee, but once you've hired them and you brought them on, they're evaluating you, they're evaluating your company, they're evaluating just how much you have it together. And so you really want to have a employee checklist to be able to make sure that all the things that need to get done, but also build confidence in that new employee that you got your stuff together, and that they're not working for a yo-yo company. One of the big things that makes a big difference to employees is the fact is, do they think they're working for a reputable, honest company? That is, that's huge. So, and then really, so it gets down to the question, what should you do? How do you do this stuff? And we've got a few things that we will give to you guys to help you, because I really believe that if we want to have really great, strong communities and county, state kind of things, we really got to have great businesses. And the business owners, I think, carry a extra weight. I often describe it as it takes more restraint to have the sword and not use it. How do we do good to our community? How do we do what we do? And I tell you, most of the time, it's not some big thing that you need to do. It's the little things that you're already doing. Do them well, hire better, treat your employees better, have a better culture. Those are the things that will impact this community in great ways, because it sends people home happy. It brings them back to work happy. They're more engaged, and that's really one of the big objectives that we're working on internally with our company. One thing that I want to give you guys, anybody that's on the call, I'll give them a free individual DISC profile. It's something that I really think that you're going to enjoy. It's normally like a $99. I'll do the assessment. I'll give you the assessment, and I'll do about a 15-minute review with you and kind of go over. And I tell you, the thing is very easy to take. You can take it in less than 15 minutes. And everybody that I've ever done, they say it's 90% accurate about how you are. And part of being a good leader is having, emotional intelligence, knowing, how you're perceived by others is a very important thing. And I think it's really a great road to making yourself a better person is kind of finding some things out like this. So really, who is this for? It's for everybody that's on this call. I'd be happy to work with you and get you that. And if you want it to go ahead and extend that to your staff, I'll do a 10% off for your staff as well, and I'll even come out and I'll read it for you. And it's pretty neat. I don't have one here to show you in the slide deck, but it puts everyone on a wheel based on the kind of where they are, so that you can have an easy reference for how these people are wired, so that basically people can look at this wheel, this chart, and they can say, oh, okay. And after I'll go through about an hour and a half long little workshop with your crew, kind of going over it, and then with that wheel and them having their own DISC profile, it really lends itself to a team. It's a great team building experience, and I've never done one where people didn't walk away like, wow, that was really cool. And I think it accomplished the goal of building that team. Now, all you have to do, we're going to hold this open till the 12th, and so get with me over the next couple of weeks or something like that, so that I can get you on my calendar and get you that DISC profile. And if you want to take us up on that, all you need to do is email events@askbis.com, and if you'll put in the subject line DISC profile request, we'll get somebody right out there, and we'll send you over the link, and then we'll schedule a time where I can come on site and do it, or I can do it over GoToMeeting. And I like to always kind of get people. I like to go over it with them, because it really is such a powerful tool. All right, guys, so we're a little over, and I apologize, but there's a lot of good information there. And as always, we're here. You can send me an email. You can get on our website, put it in our web form. There's a million ways to contact now. I'd be happy to go over. There's a lot more information in this, and even some forms that we have that would, I think, be very helpful. Some of those checklists, and even how to write an ad. Christy's really good at that. We'd be happy to help you guys, walk alongside you and get you fixed up. All right, Christy, any questions so far?
Yeah, we had 2 questions come in. How much would you spend on an ad?
It's a lot more than you used to. I'd really want to know what it was, but I mean, we will spend, $250, $300 a month. Is that about right, Christy?
Yeah, that's right. We spend that on Indeed. So if that's what you're looking for on Indeed, I know you can boost it on Facebook for just like, $20 and get the word out there.
Yeah, that's something that we do all the above. We'll drop them on LinkedIn, and we kind of have some, and then we have it on our website running all the time, which is good. All right, what else you got?
Okay, so does the DISC profile show if someone is a good salesperson?
It's not gonna show that. There's actually, from the same company, they call it a SSI, a sales service index. They really have a lot of cool things I didn't mention earlier. One of the things they do is, like, if you have a team that's going to make a decision on a hire, it puts it to where y'all all fill out the abilities, or the capabilities. I'm not using the right word here, but basically the skill set is probably a better word, of the employee that you're looking for. And each of the people that are going to make that decision fill out this web-based form. Then it does a calculation with all of the ones that are going to be doing the hiring, and then the employee fills out one, and it matches to see how close what you're looking for is with what that particular person. So there's really a lot of things that can be used in this realm, but it doesn't necessarily, to answer the question, it doesn't necessarily say, yeah, this is going to be a great salesperson. Although I'm going to tell you right now, if I saw a profile, I could tell you who would be very uncomfortable trying to sell. They could pull it off, but trust me, they're going to be stressed out. They're going to be out of their box, if you will. They're going to be outside of their comfort zone all the time. If they don't have a high I, they're never going to be able to sell in a way that is going to sustain them. I believe they'd quit because they wouldn't do it. So can't really say what's going to be a perfect one, but I'll tell you what, I can tell you some things about a specific profile and tell you some characteristics of that person. And I think again, it goes really a long ways in that hiring process to know that, you know, that person's just not a fit for that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's I believe all the questions we've had come in, but if y'all have any other questions, you can always send them to events@askbis.com.
Yep. And we'll save this recording. All this was recorded, and we'll be posting it on our Facebook page, LinkedIn page, and other areas like that. Do you send a link out to all the participants too, Christy?
Yes, I do. So you should be looking for the link early tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. It's almost 1:45. We took up about 45 minutes of your day. We hope very much that it was beneficial. And again, like I say, if you have questions or you want some of these forms or whatever we got, we'd be happy to share. Or if you want to do some disc profiling, just let us know. All right. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.